Hello everyone and welcome back to JAS Reviews. My name is James and today I am going to be doing a movie review, this time of the film The Vast of Night, directed by Andrew Patterson and starring Sierra McCormick and Jake Horowitz. Now before I get into the film, I just want to give a little brief summary of it. The Vast of Night is set in the 1950s and stars two characters, one named Faye and one named Everett, and you get the impression from the beginning of the film that they don't know each other super well, but they do sort of come together on a happenstance because there's a big championship basketball game going on at this small high school in this small town that these two characters are living in. One of the characters, Faye, is a switchboard operator, meaning that she answers calls and whatnot for the town, and she directs calls to other places, sort of like an operator for the times of the 1950s. And the other character, Everett, he is a radio DJ. He runs a station called WOTW, and the two of them sort of meet together on this basketball game night and seem to strike up a sort of friendship, but things start getting weird in this town on this one night because Faye hears some really weird sounds coming from Everett's radio station. They sound very foreign and very unfamiliar to her, and they're a little unsettling, and so she calls Everett and asks if he can hear the sounds too. And together, the two of them sort of ask the question on Everett's radio station of if anybody has heard these sounds before or could identify them. They then get this mysterious call from this stranger named Billy, who tells them that he has heard these sounds before, and it eventually leads to a discovery that perhaps there is something beyond our world, something above us that we have never known before. Now, The Vast of Night is a very interesting movie. I kept my eyes on this one when I saw it being revealed on Rotten Tomatoes, and lots of positive critic reviews coming about. I hadn't heard much of anything about this film, and really, it seems like critics were the only ones giving this a whole lot of exposure. This is Andrew Patterson's directorial debut, and he's involved in pretty much every facet of the film, from the directing, to the writing, to the editing, to the producing. He's doing it all here for this debut film. You can tell from the outset that The Vast of Night is a very low-budget movie, but they really do a good job of hiding their deficits in pretty effective ways. And in fact, this film does look higher budget than it actually is. But there's some things in this film that they do that are really impressive, including this one-take shot that they do where they go from one part of this small town and then they go through the gym and you see all these extras in the stands for the basketball game, and then they go through the gym and to the radio station that Everett runs. They basically do a whole outset of what the town looks like. But that just sort of goes to show how low-budget films can still be some of the best out there, even with their very limited resources. Another really cool aspect of this film to me is the idea that you really have to listen in this film. There's a lot of ideas of you need to hear what's being said, you need to really focus your ears, and I think they do a good job of establishing that from the beginning of the film, because this film is very dialogue heavy. It plays out almost like a radio show. I think it was a very effective move to have the film be very dialogue heavy, because most of the film either takes place in Everett's radio room or at Faye's switchboard room, and because of that, the film is forced to become very dialogue heavy. And thankfully, unlike some films where too much dialogue can become a hindrance and it can feel like an exposition dump, here the dialogue is really interesting because Andrew Patterson, who also wrote this film, does know how to weave a very compelling story and tell a very interesting sci-fi narrative without having to show everything happening. And the stories that are told here by Billy and by this older woman are the two main stories. They're both really interesting to listen to, mainly because the dialogue is written so well and the stories just really have an interesting tale to them. You really want to hear what happens next, and you get this sort of eerie, cold chill feeling like you're listening to scary stories in the dark or something like that. It's just this really cool effect that I think gives this film a very interesting edge over some of its sci-fi counterparts. Acting-wise, this movie is really solid, especially from our two leads. I think Sierra McCormick is the slightly stronger actor of the two leads, but that doesn't mean Jake Horowitz is bad, far from it. I think Jake Horowitz actually does a pretty good job of taking on this 50s styled accent. He makes it sound pretty convincing without it feeling too obnoxious or too over the top. And I think the chemistry between Everett and Faye is actually really interesting, even though these characters didn't know each other up until this moment. In fact, that aspect of the film is very interesting on its own, that this film is all taking place in one contained time, it's all happening in real time, so we're witnessing this in real time along with the characters. I think that makes the film a lot more organic, and it makes the acting feel a lot more organic too, because the characters are able to build their chemistry together so naturally. Now, like I said, this is a sci-fi film, and there aren't a whole lot of sci-fi elements here, at least visually. There's a lot of dialogue that gives way to sci-fi elements, and the noises, the auditory noises that they do for the alien entities is actually pretty interesting. There is this really cool ending shot that I don't want to give away, but it was amazing how convincing this ending shot looked, and it really gives this film an impactful ending that will be staying with me for many years to come. As far as critiques for this film go, I don't have many huge ones. Like I said, for the most part, you can't tell that this film has a low budget. I think it actually does a pretty good job of hiding it for the most part. But there are some moments that I do think you can tell were a little bit lazily done, or maybe could have been done over again. For example, there's this one 9-minute long take that takes place in the switchboard. I think they could have shortened it a little bit and maybe gotten to the point a little bit quicker about what was going on. Also, lighting-wise, this film can be a little rough in some places. I think this is especially true when things go really dark in the film at one point when they're in the radio tower and they're turning on some flashlights and stuff. The lighting is very dim in this moment, and it's hard to sort of see what they're doing. In other places, the lighting is okay, but as a whole, I think the lighting could have been done a little bit better, and there could have been places where they could have brightened it up or maybe done more natural lighting and things like that. Still, overall, The Vast of Night is a great movie. Definitely one of the most enjoyable I've seen this year, and really shows potential for Andrew Patterson as a new director. If this is the way he's going right now, able to create this film that feels nostalgic, yet also could be relevant many years down the road, then I think we've got a really good director on our hands, and I can't wait to see what he does next. Very strong 4 out of 5 stars for this movie, definitely recommended. So, what were your thoughts on the film if you've seen it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't seen this film, then I definitely recommend you go see it and go check it out on Amazon Prime. Once again, my name is James. I do reviews of both music and movies, along with the occasional commentary piece. If any of that sounds interesting to you, then please feel free to leave a like on this video, and to subscribe to my channel to see future content. And until then, I will see you all in the next video.